Welcome back, gamers. I'm Nick Cardarelli. This is Raised on D&D, and we're going to talk to some gamers about playing tabletop role-playing games with their families. Welcome to Raised on D&D. I'm your host, Nick Cardarelli. This is one of our mid-month shorts, where we sit down, we talk with gamers, and they give us some tips on how to run the game better or how to get more enjoyment out of our role-playing. So today we're going to be joined by DM Josh. He's 12 years old. He's an expert at doing voices and languages and sound effects for his role-playing games. And he's going to share a little bit about us, and he's going to give you some pro tips on how to be able to up your sound effects and languages game at the game table.
He'll place you on the floor, like he'll scare you, and as he's doing, he goes, "You keep it how day," which means chicken on a skewer.
Chicken on a skewer. Now, how does that compare to, like, the black speech of Lord of the Rings? Say something that the orcs say in War of Mordor.
I've killed this Olog called Urlisak Half-Tongue.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say something in English, and then I'll say something in black speech. So I bring him on the floor, and he goes, "I fight for the Dark Lord, you hear me? Nachdien Gustashki Fragen," which means I die for the Dark Flame. So I kill him, right? But he came back to life, and he says, "You, Karok," which means demon.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "I survived your last killing. Na mishkiek tu na krukem." And that means, your petty weapons are no match. So when he killed me, he said, "I'll sacrifice you to the Dark Flame. Na nimor give mishkiakrem." And that meant, the eye of the Sauron will smile when I kill you.
Mm-hmm.
So after he killed me, put him on the ground again.
Mm-hmm.
Before he dies, he says, "No, gosh," which means not today. So he freaking falcon punches me, and I step back, and he gets back up. And it said death defying, which meant that every time I was about to kill him, he hits me and regains half his health.
Oh boy.
So this time I really put him on the ground, and he goes, "So this is it, huh? And it says, I guess this is how it ends." So I behead him, and that's the last of Urlisak the Half-Tongue.
What about Latin? Can you say some of the Latin songs, the lyrics of the Latin songs without having to sing them?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Da pacem Domine indiebus nostris, quia non est alius, qui pegnit pro nobis nisitu Deus nostrem.
Okay, and what does that say?
Which meant, "God be with us on this day. Who would we fight for if not for you?" Something about our everlasting worship to God.
Okay.
Nope,
So do you think, as a game master or dungeon master, if you were to run a scene and have different creatures or characters from different places, that you could incorporate some of those languages into...
Yeah, I can speak black speech, elven,
You're the dungeon master. Let's say that there's some orcs, some elves, and a Scottish warrior, okay? So you're the dungeon master.
Let's say
got a whole table full of people.
Let's say there's a Scottish patrol
Okay.
walking about, and they see this army, like this platoon of about 12 orcs.
Okay.
Fighting 3 elvish hunters.
Okay.
And the elves are like holding their ground with their shields and their bows and stuff, and they say,
Who says this?
the guy with the shield, he's the
elf.
Yeah, the
Okay.
elf leader. He says, Nama kadesha furian, nemarkibete. And one of the orcs like asks the other orc what they're saying, and he goes, Namani ekrandarskon dunkran, and he goes, Namirar kambirek dushkaprier. And he says, what are they saying? He says, it doesn't matter. And he says, they're just elves. And the leader orc with like the war armor and the skull and stuff says, Noriagetak, which means for the dark flame. And they go boom, 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 boom.
Now what's the Scotsman do?
So the Scotsman and his two warriors ready their bows, and they hide behind the rocks, and they go, Nankra Nintasvinda, and all three of them go, Ankra Mericus.
So what do the Scots say?
I'm pretty sure they would say something like the orcs are attacking, bring them down.
And then the elves see the arrows hit the orcs in the back. What do the elves yell out?
Namnek Krudush, which means ambush, retreat. And they go. So the orcs are like, and it says, haha, we defeated them in the name of Sauron. And the leader looks back, and all his orcs are dead. And the Scotsman leader, who is the Highlander, points at him and says, By then Glossina Mythieth, which means death stands before you. And he goes, orc leader takes off his skull, drops it, crushes it, and says, Knock Dirshkabakadan, which means you will replace what I just crushed. And he goes, Rah! And they start fighting. The Scotsman Highlander is fighting, and he kicks the orc on the ground. He goes, Not, which means wait, and he goes, Boosh! And he goes, You keep it down, day, which means chicken on a skewer. And he goes,
and
he's
he
like,
slays the orc leader.
Yeah, and he's like on his knees, and he's like pinned doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So the Scotsman goes with a dagger and just saws off the orc's head. And he takes it, and then he takes his claymore and shows his boys the orc head. And they're like, yeah. And then like one takes the orc head and buckles it in the...
That was incredible. So do you think, as a dungeon master, being able to do other languages, I mean, if I had a dungeon master who could do those languages like you just did, I would just be like, oh my god, that's incredible. Now, your players may not be able to do languages for their own, but if a group of elves came up to us and started speaking Elvish, or a bunch of orcs were yelling orc black speech, that would definitely help me get more immersed into the game.
More immersed into the whole Middle-earth aspect.
Sure, but even if you weren't running Middle-earth, if you were running Pathfinder or D&D, and you added languages for flavor, that would definitely bring it to another level. I can't do that. I can't do, like, I do gibberish. Like, I can make, well, I make, language-like sounds, but I can't actually say things, right?
Like, Nankra Dika Shvinda, Ankra Mericus. You kind of just go, Namu Gabble, the Skibble Gabble.
I try not to make the same noise twice, but yes, it does sound like a little track on repeat. Right. Like I can, if I had an orc, I would have the orc say, which sounds like a little Huttonese, with a little Klingon. You know what I mean? But I'm not doing it on purpose.
But, you know,
that's just what's coming out.
But if I was running and there was like the orc chieftain, he'd be like, and which would be like, for the dark flame, or I'll show you to the eye of Sauron, blah blah. And be like, brr.
But that sounds so much smoother, and all the noises
and
you
more
made
linguistic.
Right, because there were different words.
Instead of gooshtuck, googa bika booga.
Right. That's what I'm doing. I'm making caveman noises. So,
booga booga.
Right.
Unga bunga.
Also, Star Wars. Can you do any Star Wars languages? Can you do a little Huttonese for us?
Take this bounty hunter to the pit. I can't waste another second looking at him. Naka nishkat buka. No kramika mitushka. No.
So, again, if you were running Star Wars, you could do some Huttonese. Are there any other Star Wars languages you can do? Can you make Jawa sounds or anything like that? And how about Sand People? No, I know that they do sign language. Hilarious. I meant Sand People battle noises. Okay.
Bonk.
Can you do Wookiee? And Porg? Okay. So there's and then but sound effects. I know you use lots and lots of sound effects. One of the log trap in Ishgam's Curse was awesome, because with that noise I really felt
getting donked by a log.
Not just the getting donked, the log sailing through the air on its ropes made me go, oh no, this is about to happen. And then donk. And then it was like 8 points of damage, and I was like, whoa! That was a lot for first level characters.
I didn't make it so that you got donked into the pit because goblins are stupid and they didn't actually measure it. You kind of just landed next to it.
Right.
They're like, haha, let's put this here and then that there and fall into the trap.
Okay, so you took into account that goblins
are retarded.
Though clever, are not, mathematicians.
Smart.
Okay.
And
they had the idea, but they couldn't do the execution.
And I said you hear the giggling of the goblin. Mm-hmm. I was thinking about having a couple of, goblins hide behind a log and put their arrows out between the holes. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, nah, they can't reach the goblins in there. It's gonna be too hard for them,
Now, a lot of dungeon masters, a lot of game masters, they can't do accents. They can't do voices. They can't do languages. What would be your suggestion for dungeon masters to learn to do accents, voices, languages, things like that? What if you could give them a tip, a pro tip? What would it be?
Play a ton of video games.
Okay, play a lot of video games, but you have a natural talent for being able to mimic sounds. You always have since you were teeny tiny. So
I mimic a bird outside. You're like, I didn't know the birds were out today.
Mm-hmm. So with your ability, that's part talent, but you also practice, right? How is it that you practice? You play lots of video games, you listen to how they talk, but then what do you do?
I kind of do like what the Predator does, and the Predator movies. I kind of just play the sound over and over again, and it'll be like Grushtak, and I'm like Grushtak, Grushtak, okay, Grushtak. Okay, it has a kind of a roll. So Grushtak. There we go. Grushtak. Grushtak.
So you really dissect the sound and repeat it over and over again.
Alright, so that's a roll, alright? That's a heavy, kind of a Norwegian accent, alright? I kind of sit there on my little tree bench in the jungle just going and I just keep imitating until I master it.
Now, can you make, you brought up the predator, can you make predator noises?
That's better when I echo.
Now you're cupping your hands and moving your fingers like mandibles. Does that help get into character?
It kind of, you know, moves the sound around a bit. Kind of
Okay.
sounds more like the predator. You know, if I just went, wait, doesn't sound like it, does it? It sounds a lot like it, but it doesn't quite sound like it. So if I go,
Oh, I see. Okay.
you see the difference there?
Mm-hmm. The real key to learning accents and languages and noises and things like that is just play it over and over and over again.
Just be like the predator. Just keep playing it until you've
and
mastered
practicing it until you learn it. And that's what you've done with each of the samples that you gave us today. Is you've done that with each of those little phrases, each of those little samples. You've done that.
Yes.
Just played it over and over again and said it and said it and said it till you got it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, DM Josh. Thanks for sharing that with us today and letting us know how to improve our dungeon mastering with languages and sound effects and accents.